Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson defended her record as both a public defender and a federal judge on the second day of her Supreme Court confirmation hearings. Now, Tuesday was the first time senators could ask Judge Jackson their questions, and she pushed back on notions from some GOP lawmakers that she is too liberal and that she's handed down lighter sentences in cases involving child pornography. CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford has more from Capitol Hill.
My judicial philosophy is to rule impartially and to rule consistent with the limitations on my authority as a judge.
So you wouldn't say that you're an activist judge?
I would not say that.
On the first day of questioning, senators focused on how Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson would rule as a justice.
What do you say to people who say you're soft on crime or even anti-law enforcement?
As someone who has had family members on patrol and in the line of fire, I care deeply about public safety.
Democratic Judiciary Committee Chair Dick Durbin opened the day with questions from the Republican playbook, giving Jackson a chance to preempt expected lines of attack, including allegations as a judge she was lenient in sentencing child pornography offenders.
As a mother and a judge who has had to deal with these cases, I was thinking that nothing could be further from the truth.
That was a preview of one of the day's testier exchanges with Senator Ted Cruz, a Harvard Law School classmate.
Do you believe the voice of the children is heard?
Yes, Senator, I do.
Could you explain how?
Your chart does not include all of the factors that Congress has told judges to consider.
Two major law enforcement organizations have endorsed Jackson, and even some opponents have called similar attacks baseless.
In every case, I did my duty to hold the defendants accountable in light of the evidence and the information that was presented to me.
Republicans also focused on her representation of detainees at Guantanamo and whether she would consider race in her decisions. Democrats answered back to defend her and asked Jackson why her historic nomination matters.
One of the things that having diverse members of the court does is it provides for the opportunity for role models.
Now, Jackson will face another full day of questioning tomorrow, but so far these hearings have been pretty tame, just not a lot for Republicans to work with. President Biden watched some of her testimony this morning. The White House told us he thought she did well. Carter?
Jan Crawford on Capitol Hill, thank you very much. Now, CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane, he was also watching these hearings. He joins us now for more. Scott, I want to talk a little bit about Judge Jackson being questioned about her work with Guantanamo Bay detainees. Now, she said as a public defender, she didn't choose her clients. She also said it was her job to, quote, stand up for the constitutional value of representation. So how did lawmakers react to this?
Hey, Carter, welcome to the marathon, by the way. 22 senators on this panel. Each gets 30 minutes of questions. This is going to go well into the evening, and there might, in fact, be more questions about that topic. It was one of the more impactful exchanges earlier today. One of the Republican senators asking her about representation of a detainee at Guantanamo, indicating through the questioning that her work advocating for that detainee may indicate some leniency or tendency towards leniency against criminals, including those at Gitmo. Now, the response was strong, both from Judge Jackson and from her Democratic senators on this panel, one of whom said that this is an issue of fundamental fairness. You represent the client in front of you. It's an American tenet of democracy. And Judge Jackson said, quote, federal public defenders don't get to pick their clients. They have to represent whoever comes in, and it's a service. That's what you do when you're a federal public defender. But that line of questioning was similar to other lines of questioning we heard from other Republicans who were digging in on what they say are questions about her work as a federal defender and indications, they say, of possible leniency towards some criminal defendants, including those charged with child exploitation. We heard an extended set of questions from Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri. This is a unique line of questioning because we have before us here a Supreme Court nominee with a background, in this case, in criminal defense and federal defense work. But through this day, which has been a long day, no indication of any surprises or any overheated sparks, Carter.
It does appear that there was an effort today to paint the judge as soft on crime, especially when it came to child pornography, talking about departing from the sentencing guidelines and the suggestion of prosecutors. We'll talk more about that later in the show. But first, I want to look ahead now. What can we expect for the final 2 days of hearings?
Now, we get round 2 from the Senate Judiciary Committee tomorrow. So the same 22 senators are likely to queue up another set of questions, a little bit shorter tomorrow. They get 20 minutes each as opposed to 30 minutes each. Senator Lindsey Graham, the Republican from South Carolina, indicated that he may press further that line of questioning we just discussed. Lindsey Graham was viewed, at least initially, as a possible pivotal figure here. He voted to confirm Judge Jackson to a lower court just several months ago, but gave indications after today's questioning that he's likely to vote against this nomination. We're getting through tomorrow a second round of questions from senators. Then Thursday, some outside legal experts and legal analysts, including the American Bar Association. So you have 4 days of confirmation hearings for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, with the prospect of a vote on this nomination in a matter of weeks.
Finally, Scott, a little bit of a left turn here, but this is very important. We understand you have some new reporting on the January 6th defendants. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Carter, let's go back to the courthouse where Judge Jackson used to preside, the D.C. federal courthouse. Today, the second January 6th trial went to verdict. The second defendant out of nearly 775 to actually stand trial. And for the second time out of 2, the Justice Department secured a conviction. Coy Griffin is an elected county commissioner from Otero County, New Mexico. He was convicted on one charge, entering a restricted area. He was found not guilty on the second charge of disorderly conduct. But this was a bench trial. Griffin wanted to put his fate in the hands of a judge rather than a jury, and he was convicted. Faces up to a year in prison at sentencing in June. The first defendant to go to trial, a man named Guy Reffitt from Dallas, Texas, he was convicted by a D.C. jury on all charges in less than 4 hours, potentially including the lunch break. We'll see what message these 2 convictions send to the nearly 500 defendants still facing the prospect of trials.
Scott MacFarlane, a very busy day for you in our nation's capital. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Carter.